I would like first to thank the new custodian of these cards in Canada for allowing me to delay shipping these to her so that I can film this comparison video. This is a comparison video between 3 editions of the Tarocchi Di Vetro, or the Tarot of Glass, or in the English-speaking tarot world, it's commonly known as the Crystal Tarot. There's a few Crystal Tarot out there. This is the one with the illustration by Elisabetta Trevisan. Not quite sure if I've pronounced that name correctly. And her father, I believe, is also a rather known artist who have illustrated at least one Italian tarot in the 20th century. The new custodian, the new owner, the new guardian of these cards have kindly compensated me financially for the costs related to this particular one here, which is a tarot unicorn of mine. But I've decided to also send her this particular copy here and this standard trimmed edition here, which I've obtained in its original gauze pouch here by who has been trimmed by somebody else, not by myself. And I've obtained this on a trade on the old Eclectic Tarot forum, in particular the trading section of the forum. And this one here in the middle is one of the many versions you can find on eBay if you research and put in the research bar there, Tarocchi Di Vetro instead of Crystal Tarot. If you put Tarocchi Di Vetro and then Elisabetta Trevisan here, the name, or Crystal Tarot and the name here to distinguish this particular one with the other Crystal Tarot. But I think if you say Crystal Tarot, you'll most probably be coming across these ones, the English standard Lo Scarabeo multi-language with added minors here. The minors are arranged on based on the Udis Picard. I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly there. The Picard system of minors. I believe they were redrawn by a different artist, but in the same spirit of Trevisan's original art here, but I could be wrong. So please feel free to comment down below if that's not quite the right facts. But I remember telling you guys that when I first tried to find this one here, I ended up with the wrong sets of majors in Italian. This is the one here. And after I received this particular deck here, I decided that perhaps the unicorn that I was after didn't actually existed at all. So when I found this one sometime last year, I think I was so elated and felt so validated that, you know, I knew this was around. But there are several other editions that look a bit like this, but it looks, if I'm not mistaken, in the photos there, the paper's different and the box is not telescopic like this. The box is a bit more like so. So there is at least another one. There is at least one other edition other than the ones that I'm showing you here. It's also in Italian only. So I suppose if you are looking for much nicer framed artwork without the multiple languages, I could say that the best chance would be if you do a search as the Italian original title, Tarocchi Di Vetro, rather than Crystal Tarot. So that's the back of, how should I put this? Let's say majors only Italian mass-produced edition. How's that? So this is, it seems to me like the art of tarot. Is that what that means? So let's see if there's this plastic container here, which isn't very attractive. Let's see what year this was. So that's in Italian. Yeah, I believe this is exclusively for the Italian market. So it seems to me that this was before Lo Scarabeo become international, or potentially after they become international. I'm not sure if they are international from the start, but this is definitely, or very obviously, just from what you can see there, it is created for the Italian speaking market. So the box is a tuck box like that, and that's the quote-unquote meanings, I suppose, from each of the major arcana there. There is the address, there's a telephone, Lo Scarabeo there. I don't see any year. So I would, because this one here is in 1988, late 80s, I believe. I think this was like the first anniversary of Lo Scarabeo. This is when Lo Scarabeo first started. So I would guess that this would be from late 80s to early 90s, this particular edition here. Again, if you know anything about this particular edition, please comment down below, because I'm very curious as well. And so printed in Italy there, and this will be flying to its new home in Canada next week. So let's start with the back. The back is reversible here. The back here is not reversible. Now that is the foundation of that reversible back of the mass-produced 78 cards edition, or the quote-unquote full deck edition. I say quote-unquote full because, in my opinion, 22 majors only can be a full deck, deserve to be called a full deck. So you see the back here, a bit more bluish. Now note that this is old, so that oxidation and degradation of colors might have happened. So the color that you see here might be as originally printed when it's new, or it could be the product of age. Having said that, this has been printed in such a beautiful acid-free paper that there is absolutely no degradation sign at all. The paper is as white. This could have been printed yesterday, and it's very hard to believe that this came from the late 80s. So that's the back, and let's go through the front, or the artwork itself. So these, the saturation of the color is quite closer between these two than this one here. And again, I can't be sure if that is as a result of aging, oxidation of colors, or of the paper on which the ink has been embedded. I'm not sure. But as they stand in the 21st century, July 2020, this one here is slightly faded yellowish hue. This one here is very nice, nicely saturated, and although it doesn't show on camera, I think because of the texture of the papers here, this one is not glossy but waxy, with this waxy sheen, like what I would call high sheen rather than glossy. It's like nicely polished furniture there, while this one here is looking quite absorbent, looking very much like watercolor paper, and it shows in terms of its transmission of colors to the lenses in front of me here that this one looks more vibrant because of the paper that it's been printed on, this one here. However, if I look with the naked eye, let me see, yeah, looking at it with the naked eye, let me see here, this is actually has a bit of a more sort of yellowish tint. This one here has a yellowish tint, but quite faded, not as intense, the color. So if you look at the blues there, the blues are not as intense here, and the blues here are a bit more purplish, while the blue here is a bit more greenish undertone. And of course, because of the way it's printed and the color, because of the paper that it's used, for me this is still the best for me personally. So let's look at quickly at the size. So these two aren't trimmed. This is trimmed though, so you could see the artwork of the trimmed version is about pretty close to this edition here. You see that, just slightly wider, but it is about as tall. It's slightly bigger here. So this is a slightly narrower, a slightly smaller, a slightly cropped, as you can see here, and at the bottom there. There, so but not by much at all. So again, on the right is the standard Lo Scarabeo full 78 cards deck with multi languages that's been trimmed by the previous owner before I acquired it several years ago. And the left hand side is the art edition and the majors only Italian edition there, untrimmed. So let's move on to the Il Bagatto. Don't know if I have pronounced that properly. Il Bagatto. Again, the back. We go to the preface next. You can pause that if you need to examine that further. The Empress. The Emperor. Beautiful art, just beautiful art. I wonder if we can find her work outside of tarot. It seems a pity for her artwork to be confined only to tarot. This is the Lovers. Justice. So again, the vibrancy between the art edition on the left from the late 80s and the mass-produced trim copy on the right there. It's a bit closer to each other compared to the majors only smaller, potentially mass-produced Italian edition in the middle there, which seems a bit more yellowish and slightly more faded. But again, that may be due to age. I'm not sure. I can't find the year for the one in the middle. And again, please feel free to let me know down below if you have any information. I'm sorry about the noise. I am filming in my study at the moment. My husband is in my usual filming area, where is near the kitchen and the laundry. The Hermit, which is an evolution of Father Time. I have a video about how the images evolved from Father Time to what we now know as the Hermit. Feel free to peruse my historical Tarocchi playlist, which can be found on my homepage here on YouTube. The Wheel of Fortune. Strength, Fortitude, number 11. So it is following the original numbering of Fortitude as number 11. Hanged Man. Death. Temperance. The Devil. And because this is art paper, not cardstock, it doesn't slide. So there's two cards here stuck together. But I have no problem just shuffling the majors. I can't speak for how it would perform as a stack of 78 cards with this art paper here, which a lot of us love. So again, the vibrancy is quite prominent on the mass produced on the right by Lo Scarabeo, multiple languages edition trimmed, and the art edition from the early days of Lo Scarabeo on the left here. And the middle one here, the mysterious edition, Italian, mass produced, I'm assuming Italian edition, majors only, of the same images originally drawn by Elisabetta Trevisan. Once again, I believe the minors have been drawn by somebody else, and the minors follow the system of these Picard minors, which at this point I'm not very familiar with, but the Picard minors can also be found in the Spanish Tarot, published by Fournier. This is a tower. Star. Moon. sun. The angel, calling or resurrection. It's interesting that this image is facing the other way. And last but not least, the world. I have another copy of this art edition, this large majors only art edition, in what looks like a telescopic hand-made hand marble paper over here. And again, the world seems to be facing the opposite direction in the mass-produced edition there, which is interesting. Its new custodian in Canada, as I've mentioned, have kindly compensate me financially for the cost of bringing this particular one here to New Zealand, and I've decided to send this as a gift to her, this edition here, as well as this trimmed copy which I obtained years ago from Eclectic Tarot Forum. So I'm not quite sure if this particular edition here, the majors only mass-produced, I think mass-produced Italian edition, is very easy to find, but when you do find them, I believe they don't cost too much at this point as of July 2020, so you may still be able to find this one. I actually quite like this edition, but it's time for it to find a new home, and so I hope everybody will be happy together. So yeah, so once again, this is unique, interesting. These two are quite interesting. I have a video of the art edition, which I will link at the end of this video. This one is the edition, once more, that I mistakenly ended up with when I was looking for this edition, and this made me think that I was looking for something that doesn't exist. I was sorely disappointed, and I shared that with you, and this is the deck here, the one I was talking about. So if you would like to see other of my collection for sale, I'm on Instagram exclusively to sell and to give away and to donate some of my collection for sale on Instagram. Feel free to direct message me there, and okay, I'm just going to do that later because the angle is pretty awkward here. It's just a quick view of the Picard miners of the Crystal Tarot mass market multiple language edition by Lo Scarabeo, from my understanding recreated based on the art of Elisabetta Trevisan, but not by her, and the miners are the Picard system of miners there. So off they will go to Canada next week. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.